Officials say the country recorded about 1,000 excess deaths during the heat wave, and health authorities warn the final number could rise as more data comes in.
The heat wave has already claimed lives across Europe, but now the crisis is taking a political turn. As air conditioners vanished from store shelves in France, Italy, Germany, and even the UK, frustrated citizens turned their anger toward their governments, with some now demanding resignations. Let me break it down. The heat and the continent. It caught off guard. Let's start with the heat. Europe is in the middle of a brutal heat wave. Temperatures are soaring across the UK, France, Spain, Germany, and Belgium. Germany has reached 41.7 degrees Celsius. The UK is breaking June heat records, and France has already reported around 1,000 excess deaths.
I'm in the UK during a heat wave. It's about 10 billion degrees Celsius, as you can tell from my radiant glow.
And that's only part of what's happening. A massive heat dome is sitting over much of Western Europe, trapping hot air with little relief. Ambulance services are reporting record numbers of emergency calls, hospitals are treating more heat-related illnesses, and desperate people are rushing to beaches, rivers, and lakes to cool off, leading to a growing number of drownings. Across the region, store shelves are being cleared as people scramble for anything that can help them beat the heat.
All these empty shelves is a result of it being too hot in the UK. This is the reality of it, right here. The fridges don't work.
Not everyone is feeling the heat the same way. Older people living in apartments without proper ventilation are among the hardest hit. Outdoor workers are spending hours in dangerous temperatures, and homeless people have very few places to escape the heat. In France, the situation is so severe that many are comparing it to the deadly 2003 heat wave. Across Europe, the disruption is growing. In Belgium, around 1 in 5 trains is running without air conditioning. Schools are closing, hospitals are delaying some procedures, and many workplaces are simply too hot to operate normally.
I'm taking a shower right before bed. I'm sleeping with wet towels over me just to try to survive, honestly.
This isn't just a few unusually hot days, it's an ongoing emergency, and experts warn Europe is warming about twice as fast as the global average. That means heat waves like this could become much more common. But there's another problem that has caught a lot of people by surprise. Why do so few homes in Europe have air conditioning?
It is rare for households in Europe to have air conditioning. In fact, it's only 20%.
The difference is huge. Around 90% of homes in the United States have air conditioning. Across Europe, that number is only about 20%, and in parts of the UK, France, and Germany, it's even lower. A big reason is that many homes were built for cold winters, not extreme summer heat. Thick brick and stone walls help keep heat inside during winter, but they weren't designed for temperatures like these. There are other reasons too. After the oil crises of the 1970s, many European countries focused heavily on saving energy. Electricity has remained expensive in many places, making air conditioning something many people chose to live without. More recently, environmental concerns have also played a role, with some arguing that widespread air conditioning increases energy use and makes already hot cities even warmer. When air conditioning became political,
we need AC air conditioning, because I've been to Australia. It ain't even as bad over there. This feels like hell. Satan's ass crack. And I'm hearing people are expecting me to be functioning properly. Like, you know it's bad when there's not a single cloud in the sky.
If the heat was the trigger, the politics was the explosion, and it detonated at a single address. The Layment, the glass and steel headquarters of the European Commission in Brussels, became the flashpoint. As the heat peaked on June 26 and 27, management shut down air conditioning on the lower floors, floors 1 through 7 where rank-and-file staff worked, while the upper floors housing President Ursula von der Leyen's offices stayed cooled. Workers received urgent texts. The reaction was immediate and scathing. Staff branded the arrangement feudalism and a disgrace, and the imagery proved irresistible. An institution that lectures the world on climate sacrifice, keeping its leadership cool while ordinary employees sweltered below. People demanded AC for all.
I don't know how otherwise you can get to be less warm, and you need some air. And how can you do it otherwise with electricity?
That symbol lit a fuse that had been waiting a long time, because the heat reopened what amounts to a full-blown culture war. The populist right moved first. In France, national rally leader Marine Le Pen seized the moment, pledging a sweeping air conditioning plan, a multi-billion euro package framed around cooling schools, hospitals, and homes for the elderly if her movement took power. Her message was blunt and effective. While the establishment clung to climate dogma, she would deliver tangible relief to people gasping in the heat. Across the continent, allies echoed the theme. Spain's Vox, Britain's Conservatives and other right-leaning voices accused the left and the Greens of prizing ideology over human lives, of letting the vulnerable suffer for the sake of a carbon ledger. This ideology makes air conditioning very rare in European homes. Air conditioning, once a mundane appliance, became a weapon in a wider culture war, a symbol of practical governance pitted against environmental purity. For the populist right, the heatwave was not a crisis. It was an opportunity. The other side's response was more tangled and more revealing. For years, Europe's Greens had treated mass air conditioning as something close to taboo, an energy-hungry symptom of the very crisis they were fighting. France's Green leader, Marine Tondelier, conceded that cooling was necessary in some places, schools and hospitals among them, a quiet breaking of an old orthodoxy. In London, Mayor Sadiq Khan called for air conditioning in schools, offices and hospitals. Even within the European Greens, figures signaled openness to targeted cooling paired with greener solutions, yet the centre and left refused a blanket rollout. They emphasized efficiency, renewable integration, and passive measures, wary of locking in a fossil-fueled appetite for cold air, and the French government pointedly downplayed Le Pen's grand plan as a populist gesture. The result was a political class caught between principle and pragmatism, scrambling to adapt its message as fast as the mercury rose. The heat had exposed the central tension of European climate politics, the long, slow war on emissions running headlong into the immediate, physical need to adapt. And the stakes were not merely rhetorical.
The hottest day ever recorded in France is 102 degrees Fahrenheit, and let me just give you a point of reference. I just walked into my apartment, and my whole body started dripping sweat. My legs are drenched in sweat. I didn't know ankles had sweat glands, but they do.
Events like this test coalitions and reshape elections. Far-right movements sensed an opening, recasting every overheated office and every cancelled train as proof that the governing establishment had failed at the most basic task of all, protecting people from the weather. Heat plans, warnings and cooling centres were rolled out across capitals, but the political ground had already shifted, and adaptation, once a technocratic afterthought, had become a frontline electoral issue. The frustration was real and raw. Sold-out fans, sleepless nights drenched in sweat, shuttered schools, and the gnawing fear for elderly relatives. Social media overflowed with complaints, especially across a northern Europe unaccustomed to such ferocity, and polls in France showed an overwhelming appetite for more cooling in homes and public buildings. But search for an organized movement calling for resignations tied to AC, and it dissolves into vapor. There were memes mocking the feudal optics of the EU headquarters, isolated jabs, and a broader, simmering discontent feeding on the cost of living and migration. Europeans were frustrated with their leaders on many fronts, yet nowhere does a continent-wide campaign to oust governments over air conditioning appear. The panic of the headline was manufactured, the grievance beneath it was genuine, and that grievance runs into a hard truth the slogans ignore: air conditioning is no clean salvation. Roll it out across hundreds of millions of European homes, and the consequences ripple outward. Grids already buckling under peak demand would strain further. Every unit, however modern, draws power. And where that power still flows from fossil fuels, the cooling that saves lives indoors quietly warms the planet outside. The machines vent heat into the streets, intensifying the urban furnace they are meant to escape. This is why energy analysts and bodies like the IEA refuse to treat AC as a silver bullet, insisting that any rollout be matched with efficient units and clean power behind them. They point instead to a dual path: targeted cooling for the genuinely vulnerable, paired with the slower, structural work of better building codes, reflective roofs, green corridors, and shaded public space. There is even a grim statistical wrinkle: cold still kills more Europeans each year than heat. But heat waves are sharp, sudden, and growing, and the climate models predict the extremes will only arrive more often and bite harder. The longer game now runs through Europe's own policy machinery. The Green Deal, the renovation wave, and the push for energy efficiency were all built to cut emissions. But the 2026 heat reframed them as questions of survival as much as sustainability. The market is moving faster than politics, with cooling unit sales already booming. The challenge for Europe is to bend that surge toward efficient, clean-powered systems rather than a fossil-fueled scramble to protect the vulnerable without abandoning the climate goals it has championed for a generation. Balancing affordability, emissions and resilience is the knot every European government must now untie. The heatwave laid that gap bare, and it handed populists a powerful weapon: the charge that elites preach sacrifice from cooled offices while ordinary people suffer below. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.